Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Became a Fallen Angel. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see part 4 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Stay back, Ryo-sama. Grafie yelled as she pushed the red-haired girl behind her. She didn't know what was going on at the moment, but she knew that the situation could quickly turn for the worst if they weren't careful. The fact that a powerful fallen angel was around without them now was bad. The fact that said angel had 12 wings only served to make it worse. "I'm not here to fight you devils," Naruto said before looking down to Kunu, who was crying into his chest. The blonde patted the young kitsune as he tried to comfort her. He felt terrible that she had to go through that because he was living with them. "It's okay, Kunu-chan," he said calmly. The red-haired man smiled at him and walked towards the two blondes. "I'm Surzuch's Lucifer, one of the 4 Satans. May I get your name?" he said kindly. Naruto narrowed his eyes on the man before deciding that he held no malicious intent towards him or the girl in his arms. There was no doubt that this was going to spread over the supernatural world, now that he had been discovered. Still, in his mind, saving Kunu was worth it. "Naruto Uzumaki," he replied as he set Kunu on the ground. Instead of running to her mother, she opted to hug his leg, as if his presence gave her a sense of safety. "I'm sorry that some of my acquaintances interrupted your meeting with Yusaka-chan," he said, bowing his head a bit in shame for what the other fallen angels had done. He barely could refer to most of them as friends, with the only ones he really trusted being the Azazel, Bearcole, and Calwarner. Not to say that they were all bad, but many were terrible. "It's fine." Surzuchus waved as he smiled back at the 2 female devils he's brought with him to the meeting. "Let me introduce you to my wonderful little sister Rias-tan and my queen and personal maid Grafia," the man said as he motioned to the 2. Grafia bowed slightly, but he could feel her energy building as if she was preparing to attack if it was necessary. The other girls seemed to be studying him. "How about we all take a break?" Yusaka recommended, seeing how tense everyone was after the attack. Both the blonde and red Satan nodded in agreement as Naruto walked off with Kunu at his side, while Grafia and Surzuchus walked back inside with Yusaka, who gave one final look at Naruto and Kunu before following the 2 devils with a smile. Ryuz just stood outside deep in thought at what she had just learned. It was hard to wrap her head around the fact that there was another fallen angel with 12 wings that not even her brother knew about. Not to mention that he seemed to be around her age, if not a bit older. While she didn't really like fallen angels in general, she wasn't one to generalize them all as evil. "He didn't look half bad either," she said before going back with Naruto. Naruto was giving Kunu a quick look over. He checked her for any injuries. He couldn't help but curse the fallen angels under his breath for forcing him to reveal himself to the devil leader, but at least he seemed to be a good man. Unlike most of the fallen angels, he held no hatred for race, since he was born as a human in a world where devils didn't exist. That guy was strong. He's nowhere near as strong as Madara and Kaguya, but stronger than Azazel, that's for sure, Naruto thought to himself as he contemplated his next move. He knew that Azazel wanted to make peace with the devils, unlike most of their faction, and had met with the man several times over their long lifetimes, so attacking them was out of the question, not that he wanted to anyways. That woman was also strong in her own right, but she's leagues below that Surzuch's guy. That brought his mind to the last of the 3 devils he had met today. To call her beautiful was an insult to her in his mind. He near blushed at the thought of her long red hair. "Damn, I'm turning into my dad," Naruto muttered, causing Kunu to look at him with a cute confused face. Noticing her gaze, Naruto smiled before patting her on the head. "You all set, Kunu-chan," the reincarnation of Asura said. "Thanks, Ni-chan," Kunu said. The 2 left to rejoin the others. It wasn't long before the 2 entered the room where the devils and Yusaka were waiting for them. "Kasama," Kunu yelled as she ran to where her mother was sitting and gave her a hug. "Are you sure you're okay, Kunu-chan?" the elder kitsune asked her daughter, who nodded and sat down next to her. Naruto looked on happily the 2 before he took a seat in the spot Yusaka had set up for him when he returned. "Now, I'm sure you 3 have a lot of questions," Naruto said, holding back a sigh as he was handed a cup of tea by Yusaka. "I will try to answer what I can, but I will not betray Azazel, just as I don't expect you to betray your kind," he said the last part sternly. "I understand, Uzumaki-san," the leader of Hell started, before he was cut off by Naruto. "Des, Naruto is fine. I don't it when things are all formal and stuff," the blonde interrupted before drinking his tea. He could feel the annoyance rolling of the maid when interrupted her master, as if he didn't care about his title, and frankly he didn't. Surzuchus was strong, that he couldn't deny, but he was not on his level. "I also have a few questions for you, but since this is your meeting, I will let you go first," Naruto said to the Lucifer. "It's rare to find a fallen angel who is as considerate of devils as you, Naruto," Surzuchus said, grinning. Many fallen angels would have just attacked them without even talking. To meet with one who didn't care if you were a devil was indeed very rare. Naruto matched the Sada's grin. "I can imagine. Many of the members of my faction aren't the nicest people," Hell, even I barely trust anyone in it. Naruto said, laughing a bit, which Sursages joined in on. So if I may ask, Naruto, where did you come from? There hasn't been many Seraph-level angel created since they were first created them, and I don't remember you during the war. It was extremely unlikely that one of the younger angels had risen up the ranks so quickly, when many of those who had fought during the war hadn't achieved that level. Naruto frowned, but knew lying could only cause more problems. The man was the leader of an entire race. No doubt he knew many of the strongest in each of the three factions by name. The fact that he looked so young and was never once seen before only made the situation worse for him. Simply put, I was a human who was turned into a fallen angel, Naruto said to Sursage, who looked a bit troubled by the news. The ability to reincarnate a human into their faction was something that so far only the devils had, and it must be a large pill to swallow knowing that someone else has something like it. Don't worry about it, however. Azazel said that he doesn't have the resources to recreate the process that made me into what I am now. Naruto tried to reassure them. I see. Sursages responded. He didn't know if he could completely trust the man in front of him, but he knew Azazel well enough to know that if he trusted the Uzumaki, then he was at least worth his word. Sursage-sama, you should take this matter more seriously. Graphia chastised her king for being so laid back about such a serious development. Several of the fallen angels have attacked us in the past. Even if Azazel can't replicate it, what if another learns how and builds a force strong enough to attack the underworld? She said to her king, hoping that he would see how serious the situation was. If that were to happen, then I would eliminate them. Naruto said, calmly, getting the attention of the two. Azazel has already said that none of the members of the Grigori are to attack members of the Devil or Angel or any faction. Any who break this rule are traitors, which is where I come in. Naruto said as he stood up and bowed. I am Naruto Uzumaki, Warden of the Grigori. Naruto said, giving his given title. He had earned it shortly after he first wiped out a group who were planning on invading the home of a family of devils who had settled on Earth. I see that as why those fallen angels were after you. Rias finally spoke up. The girl smiled at the blonde kindly. I haven't introduced myself, but as you may have heard, I am Rias Gremory. I'm assuming that they were after you because you hunted and killed some of their friends. She concluded, getting a nod from the blonde. Correct. Naruto responded. Many of my kind hold a strong hatred towards me, since I am the one who keeps them in line. The blonde said with a heavy sigh at the thought of the other fallen angels. Then why don't you leave them? Rias asked the blonde, who looked at her with a small glare. I mean, if they hate you, then why not just leave? She asked him. Sursages looked over at his sister, knowing where she was going, and he didn't like it. I offer you a place in my peerage as my Urk. She offered it to blonde, who looked at her with sweat drop. You want me to abandon my faction just to become your servant? Naruto said slowly before chuckling. Trying to gain a powerful ally by playing to his weakness. I got to say, you're as intelligent as you are beautiful. Naruto said, complimenting her. While he often did think about leaving the Grigori, he didn't want to leave the wild group unchecked, since as genius as Azazel was, he wasn't enough to keep everyone in line. So what do you say? She asked as she held her peace. How about this? Naruto said as he stood up and offered her a friendly smile. You try to land a single hit on me in a spar. If you manage to do that, I will join you. However, if you lose. Naruto paused as he gained a dark look which would fit well on a fallen angel. I'll kill you where you stand, he said menacingly. Rias instantly backed down. While she was confident in her skills, she didn't think that she could take on a seraph. No, she knew she couldn't stand a chance. Graphia's eyes narrowed on the two of them as she started to channel her magic to strike down the blonde should he decided to attack them. Naruto started to chuckle a bit at the mortified face Rias was making at the thought of having to fight him. Relax, I have no intention of killing you, Red, I was just joking. Naruto said, causing Sursage to smile at the blonde's good nature. However, I will be your friend. The Uzumaki continued with a charismatic grin. I guess I'll take what I can take in. She said to the blonde, even if she was a bit annoyed at the fact that he had turned down her offer. Sursages let out a breath of relief, since he knew that even if the blonde had agreed, his dear little sister wouldn't have been able to turn him given how powerful he was. It would have taken all her pieces and then some to reincarnate the fallen angel into a devil, and that would have upset her more than him refusing. I sense that you are disappointed, Naruto said, surprising them a bit. I can sense a large amount of negativity coming from you. You are angry and feel a bit hopeless, he said, surprising her even further. He couldn't help but already feel bad for the girl, just based on how much darker her emotions got when he refused to join her group. It was almost as if he was been a chance for her to get out of something. It's personal, she said, scowling a bit at him. Naruto frowned but didn't regret his actions. If anything, he wanted to know more about what was troubling her. He could see that the older Redeed had the look of regret on his face when she said that. The leader of the devil faction had also gained a gloomy feel to him compared to his normal personality. If you need help, just ask, Naruto said with a wave of his hand before another thought entered his head. Besides, you already agreed to be my friend, Naruto told her as he extended his hand to her. How about it? I help you and in return you become my friend, you know, he offered her. Rias bit her lower lip as she considered Naruto's offer. While part of her wanted to be wary of the blonde simply because he was a fallen angel and he wasn't part of her group, another part of her wanted to take whatever risk needed to get herself out of her situation. Surzicha seemed oddly calm at this point, as he waited to see what his sister would do. While he wanted to shelter her from danger, she needed to make her own choice, and if they ever ended up negatively then he would step in. But if the blonde was anything like Azazel, he was sure everything would end up fine. I have to break that contract, her mind affirmed as she grasped Naruto's hand. You got yourself a deal, Naruto Uzumaki. Ria said to the blonde, who nodded and shook her hand. Surzicha smiled at the friendly faces the two had on as they solidified their deal. Naruto let go of her hand as he leaned back in his chair. So Riaz, tell me what you need me to help you with. Naruto regusted. Break my marriage contract with Riser Phoenix, she told him. She really didn't want to rely on someone else, but with less than a few months before it would be completed, she was running out of options, and her peerage wasn't anywhere near strong enough to take on his full group plus him. She was already starting to get desperate. Then you have my word, Naruto said as he folded his arms. I'll break your contract with this Riser guy. And I never break my word, that is my way. Naruto said, getting nodded for both the deeds, but the maid's glare never left him. Hey Isaka-chan, since my cover has been blown, I'm going to check back with Azazel. I'll be back in a few days, okay? Naruto said as he stood up and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Surzicha-sama, should we really be trusting a fallen angel? Graphius scolded the Lucifer, who put his hands up in defense. He could be trying to get close to Ria-sama to get to you. Trust me when I say Naruto-kun can't be trusted. Yusaka said, glaring at the maid for accusing her friend of scheming to attack the devil faction. After spending so much time with him, she knew that the only thing Naruto wanted was to bring peace to the world and the factions. Azazel has wanted nothing but peace since the war. If he trusted Naruto to be so close to the yokai leader and her child, then he can be trusted to a degree. Besides, this was Ryastan's choice. He said, smiling at the Redeed, who still seemed unsure of her choice, but in the end, as long as she got out of her predicament, then she was fine. Naruto appeared outside of Kyoto. Come out, Kuroka-chan. Naruto said as he saw Kuroka jump down from a tree and land next to him. Hey there, kitty. Naruto said as he rubbed the top of head, causing her to purr and lean into him. So where have you been off to? I have barely seen you in the last few months. Naruto asked the cat girl. He smirked and raised her mouth next to his ear. Secret, she whispered, causing Naruto to almost all over and faceplant. Kuroka giggled a bit at Naruto's expression as she walked with him away from the city. Sorry Naru-kun, but I can't tell you just yet. Maybe if you give me those babies like I want, then I'll tell you, Nia. She teased him, only to get a light slap to the back of the head. You're so mean, Nia, she said, rubbing the back of her head. I'm not mean, you're just a horny pussy. The Uzumaki teased her. Kuroka had grabbed onto his arm and placed it between her great mounts. Sometimes it was hard for him to contain his fallen angel side, which had more than a growing amount of lust. But I have things I have to do at the moment, Naruto said to the woman who hung off his arm. You're right, she said, licking his cheek with her rough cat-like tongue. I am a very horny pussy, she teased him back. She really wished she had spent more time with her blonde friend over the last few months, since he started hiding in Kyoto. She had been one of the few people who he told, and while she didn't tell anyone, she always kicked herself for not capitalizing on the time when Naruto was isolated from most of the world. Maybe if she had, they may have been a step closer to repopulating her species. In a few months I'll enter heat, she reminded herself as she walked with the blonde. Hey Kuroka-chan, your sister is a part of Ria's Grimory's peerage, right? Naruto asked the Nekomata, who raised an eyebrow at the sudden question, but nodded anyways to answer his question. I can sense her confused, he said, slightly amused. She was at Yusaka-chan's house with her brother Surzicha's Lucifer and some gray-haired maid. She seems nice even if she has some baggage, Naruto said. Oh, she has some baggage, I would say. Kuroka said, not really talking about Ria's problem with her fiancé, but rather her body, more specifically her boobs. Anyways, I've kept an eye on little Shirin-chan, and I can't complain, the cat girl said to Naruto, who nodded. From the few times they had talked about her sister, Naruto could tell she felt bad for what she did, but both of them knew it needed to be done. Don't worry, after I finish this job for Ria's, I'll see if I can convince her brother to clear your name, Naruto said before they saw someone land in front of them. The young man had dark silver hair and ice blue eyes. He was wearing a dark green V-neck shirt with a high-collared black leather jacket over it. He also wore burgundy jeans with a chain drooping down over them, and black leather chaps with 3 bands encircling his right calf, and black shoes with black buckles. Out of his back were 8 devil-like wings. Volley, this is an unexpected surprise, Naruto said, frowning. Naruto and Volley had met for the first time soon after Naruto had recovered enough to have a spar with Azazel. To say that their meeting went bad was an understatement. The blonde barely got a word out before Volley demanded a battle. In short terms, the kid was a battle maniac. No matter how many times he refused, the silver-haired half-devil persisted. His attitude didn't earn him any points in his book either. To a degree, he was like a young Sasuke, before they had put their differences aside. Uzumaki. Volley said, narrowing his eyes on the blonde. Unfortunately for Naruto, he had taken Naruto's refusal to battle him as an insult to his battle prowess. Azazel had been more than clear when he said that Naruto had bested him in battle, and would be more than capable of beating him. None of that mattered to him. He wanted to have a fight with the 12-winged fallen angel who had bested their mentor, even if he died in the battle. Did Azazel send you? Naruto asked, only for Volley to charge at him. The hell? The blonde yelled as he picked up Kuroka in his arms, and jumped out of the way. Volley's fist crashed into the ground, making a decent-sized crater. Volley, what are you doing? Naruto demanded as he let his wings out. A powerful barrier formed around the area they were in, dyeing the sky a dark purple. I came here on my own. Volley said as his body was covered in white dragon-like armor. I'm not holding back. He yelled as he charged at Naruto, who reacted at the last second by spinning out of the way of the attack and landing on the ground. Kuroka jumped out of his arms as they watched Volley flying over the. What are you waiting for? Battle me. Vale yelled at them. Naruto's eyes narrowed on the teen as he created a spear of light in his right hand. You asked for it, Volley. Naruto yelled as he threw the weapon of light at Volley. The armored teen moved out of the way before going down at him. Azazel said he divided his opponent power by touching them in his base 4. Naruto thought as he jumped away from Volley. Naruto moved far faster than Volley could see and appeared next to him. His kick nearly shattered the mail over Volley's left arm. The blonde frowned as he felt his power get cut in half by the sacred gear's effects. I can't keep hitting him with physical attacks. The blonde thought while Volley recovered from the attack. What power? Volley grunted as he tried to control the power he had drained from Naruto. Just at half, it caused his wings to start releasing the excess energy. It exceeded all expectations he had for his opponent. I wouldn't lose to you. Volley yelled as he charged at Naruto far faster than before. Naruto flipped back and aimed his mech arm at Volley. Light beam. The Uzumaki yelled as he fired a beam of light at Volley, who used his power to divide the energy in the attack, until there was too little power to even be noticed. Naruto growled a bit before vanishing from Volley's sight. The armored teen turned in time to catch Naruto's fist. Divide. Volley thought as he attempted to drain more of Naruto's power, only to find himself unable to. What? Naruto smirked as a compartment on his arm opened, revealing a second mini-missile. Volley was blown back by the sudden attack, while Naruto corrected himself. That's enough, Volley. Their battle was interrupted by Azazel, who had arrived shortly after the battle had begun. The three inside the barrier looked at the leader of the Grigori, who was scowling at the two combatants. I thought I told you that you were not to fight with Naruto, unless both him and I allowed you to spar. He said before his face took a sympathetic look. I don't want either of you to die. He muttered as he landed on the ground. It was then that he noticed Kuroka. Damn, I wouldn't mind doing that. He thought before looking at Volley. Return to the base. He said, grinning madly. I have a new training program to punish you with. Volley paled a bit before releasing the barrier and flying away from the other three with a scowl on his face. Next time I will win. He thought to himself. Naruto could tell that this encounter would only serve to cause more problems between him and Volley. Naruto sighed as he retracted his wings back into his body and leaned against a tree. Even if Volley wasn't as strong as him in his current form, having half his power stolen was still tiring. The timing Azazel I needed to taw. Naruto started before he was cut off by the elder man. No time for that now, Naruto-kun. Azazel said as he moved to face Naruto, who was using his chakra to refill his reserves that had been taken by Volley. It seems that you were right, he said, scowling, handing him a folder. Inside, Naruto found pictures of an average-looking Japanese boy holding hands with a girl he knew far too well. Rainer. Naruto growled as he looked at the picture of the smiling girl. Even if it was just a picture, he could see that she was faking it. Why didn't Calwarner report this earlier? He asked, fearing a bit for the woman. While she was far from innocent, she was far more trustworthy and loyal than Rainer. Rainer likely had her under watch, consider she was the only person we added to the team. Azazel said, frowning. Naruto himself was worried about the blue-haired woman who he had befriended. Flashback. Naruto was walking through one of the Grigori bases. He was taking a short break from training with Azazel to get used to his new powers. Instantly he found himself disgusted by some of the other faction members. Many talked about crimes as if they were nothing but pastimes. The men bragged about how many virginities they took, while the women how many hearts they broke. Many of their bodies were deformed due to sinning, some gaining a slight demonic look. He heard someone mutter, looks like the warden is here. You look new around here. Naruto heard a woman say, who was walking towards him. She was a tall and buxom woman with long, navy blue hair that obscured her right eye, and brown attire consisted of a violet trenchcoat-like top with a white collar, a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trenchcoat top was open at her chest, giving view to her very large breasts and cleavage. Naruto smiled and nodded. So far she had been the first of the fallen angels besides Azazel or Bearcold to greet him. Yeah, this is my first time here. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said, extending his hand towards the woman. He couldn't deny that she was one of the best-looking women he had seen in both his and this world. He remembered that Azazel had told him that female fallen angels tend to gain extremely seductive bodies after they fell. The woman smiled and took his hand. "My name is Kalwerner." She introduced herself to him as they shook hands. The female fallen angel couldn't help but look over his body and licking her lips a bit. "So how did you fall?" she asked him, getting the attention of some of the other fallen angels. "I don't really know," he said, getting sweat drops from those who believed his lie. Many of the men glared at him for gaining the attention of the Kalwerner, and the fact that he was getting his reputation of killing or injuring fallen angels who went against Azazel. His empathy sense was going crazy from the negative feeling he was getting from nearly everyone in the room minus the woman in front of him. Sure, she had the same taint that nearly all fallen angels had, but she wasn't radiating darkness like the rest. "Well, it was nice to meet you, Kalwerner-san, but I think I may have to leave," Naruto said, looking over at the others. The busty fallen angel watched as the blonde walked out of the room. A small point reached her lips when he left. She silently glared at the other before following him out of the building. The sight she was greeted by was a shock to say the least. Before her was the same blonde as before, but with 6 sets of wings and 10 other fallen angels bleeding on the ground around him. His gaze turned onto her. She couldn't help but shiver a bit at the cold glare he was giving her before it softened a bit. Azazel was right, he said as he kicked one of the downed fallen angel. "Trash," he said. The light blush crept onto her face at the display. Naruto looked at her one last time before sending a small hand wave to her, before flying away faster than she could see. As he flew away, Naruto smiled at finally another fallen angel who wasn't so malicious. Flashback end. "Naruto, I want you to go and make sure Rainer doesn't do anything stupid in the devil's territory. If you need to." Azazel stopped a bit as let out a sigh. Giving the blonde the kill order was never easy for him. He considered the Gregorius family to an extent, but he needed to protect the peace the factions had for now. "Kill her." Naruto nodded and prepared to move, only for Kuroka to jump into his arms. "You're not getting rid of me yet, Nia," she said to the blonde, who nodded, vanished in a burst of speed. Kuroka snuggled into Naruto's chest as he flew through the air with her in his arms. The fallen angel blushed as she felt the 2 soft mounds of flesh pressing against his chest. It didn't help that he could feel her warm breath on his skin. Had he been a lesser man, he may have given in to his urges and taken her, but he was a hardened shinobi and one of the most powerful beings in the world according to Azazel. It had been around 3 days since Azazel had told him to go check on Rainer, since he needed time to organize himself for a possible extend trip. "Naruto-kun." Kuroka moaned as she rubbed her sleeve his abs through his shirt. "I'm bored, Nia," she complained to him. Naruto rolled his eyes as he tried to ignore the beauty in his arms at the moment. They were on their way to Kuo Academy, but Naruto had decided to take his time flying there since they weren't in much of a hurry. "Then why don't you fly yourself then?" Naruto asked, a bit annoyed, since he knew that the Catwoman had wings herself, since she had been reincarnated as a devil in the past. He instantly noticed the gloomy aura that filled Kuroka and regretted snapping at her like. Naruto felt bad since he remembered that she had never wanted to become a devil in the first place. "I'm sorry, Kuroka," Naruto whispered to her. The black-haired girl smiled softly, but her eyes still held some sadness in them. The two flew in silence for a few minutes before Kuroka finally spoke. "Why did you agree to help me populate my species?" she asked the blonde, who looked down at her with a bit of surprise. Since the day they met, she had been trying to get into his pants to help her species. "Do I need a reason? If I fall in love with you, then of course I would want to have kids with you, my little kitty," Naruto said, teasing her a bit. Kuroka blushed at the nickname. "Besides, it's not the first time I agreed to something like that, except this time I may go through with it," the blonde added, getting a confused look from the former Nakamata. Not that she really cared about sharing, since that was mostly a human concept. "How about after we land we go on a date, Nia?" Kuroka suggested to him. She wanted to get him to agree to have sex with her before her heat period started, or else she would have to wait until the next one. Naruto thought about it for a few seconds before he gave her his answer. "Sure, why not, but first I have to make sure that Rainer hasn't done anything stupid," he responded. Over the time he had been hiding, Kuroka had declared herself his girlfriend, regardless of how many times he had shot down the notion. After all, she was one of the few people he would spend time over the last few months, even if she disappeared for weeks at a time. Though he did feel some tension between her and Yusaka for some reason. He could remember the time she had snuck into his bed some time before the morning. Flashback. It had been a normal morning for him as the kitsune who he was staying with opened the door to his room to wake him up like she always did for him. Or rather, he had thought it had been a normal morning until he felt a wave of dread wash over his room. "Yusaka-chan, what's wrong?" Naruto asked the mother, who glared at the spot next to him. The fallen angel's jaw dropped as he saw Kuroka sleeping next to him completely naked. She was blushing heavily as she spoke a bit in her sleep. "Naruto-kun, punish this pussy, Nia," she said, earning a blush from not only him, but the blonde kitsune as well, due to the dual meaning of her words. And neither of them were innocent in any way. "Care to explain, Naruto-san?" Yusaka said coldly with an odd smile that looked a bit too sweet for his liking. It almost reminded him of how the Mizukage Mei would act when her guard Ao would bring up her age, and the fact that she never married despite her growing age. Naruto for once couldn't think of anything to say in return. Kuroka hadn't been there when he had first gone to sleep. Of course Hisaka knew who Kuroka was due to her reputation as one of the most dangerous criminals from the underworld. Keep it quiet, Nia. Kuroka muttered, annoyed from the talkings. The beauty sat up, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes, before she looked up at an annoyed Hisaka, who was flashed by the younger woman's larger breasts. You are trespassing in my house. Hisaka responded, a bit annoyed that her guest had been sleeping with a woman well under her roof. It was a holy sight for some people, for crying out loud. I just miss my Naruto-kun. Kuroka said, grabbing onto Naruto's arm with a pout. This wasn't the first time she had snuck into his bed, but it was the first time she had done so completely naked, and with Hisaka in the room. You can't blame me for wanting to be with my boyfriend, she said to the fox yokai. BB boyfriend, Hisaka said in shock before Naruto could respond. I'm not your boyfriend. The blonde male yelled back at her, only for her to kiss him on the cheek. It had only been 2 months since he had started staying with Hisaka and her daughter, and he didn't want to end up homeless due to a misunderstanding. But we went on a date before and you agreed to another one, Kuroka said, smirking at him. Naruto paled a bit as she continued to speak. I think that makes me your girlfriend, doesn't it, Nia? She said to him, leaving him looking like a fish out of water. I'm afraid you may have misunderstood, stray cat, Hisaka said as she walked towards the bed. Oh, I get it, you have the hots for him, Nia. Kuroka teased the kitsune, who stopped her advance and took a step back. Naruto stayed silent the entire time, since from experience with Ino and Sakura, interfering would only result in their combined wrath going at him. If it means anything, I'm okay with sharing, Nia, she told Hisaka with a wide grinning. The nerve, Hisaka yelled out before she stormed out of the room, trying to hide the massive blush that was covering her face. Flashback end. He couldn't help but switch-drop how that interaction had gone. Hisaka rarely spoke to him for a week after that, but Kunu had managed to convince her to let him explain the situation to her. Things were still rough for a bit with the yokai leader, but eventually they returned to their old relationship. We're almost there, Naruto said as they saw the city coming into view. It always impressed Naruto how big some places were in this world, but at the same time it made him sad how much the world was suffering because of this. It just made his respect for Kuroka and other senjutsu users that much higher. Sure, for someone like him who had conquered his hatred it wasn't much, but to people who still had some darkness in their hearts or hadn't trained properly it was extremely difficult. I can't wait to see Shirin-chan, Nia, Kuroka said with a wide grin on her face as Naruto landed on one of the many buildings. It only took him seconds to draw in enough nature energy to enter his base sage mode. Kuroka looked at Naruto, who was gazing over the large city with his now toad-like eyes. It always amazed her how proficient the blonde was with the power that very few could use. See anything? She asked the blonde, who nodded. Rainer broke her orders, Naruto said with a small growl. He was watching Rainer walking hand in hand with a teenage boy who seemed to possess a very powerful sacred gear, the boosted gear. Now I see why Azazel took interest in that boy, Naruto thought as he watched the two from afar. He could sense the great power hidden inside of the boy, but at the same time he felt 2 other powers. Looks like Riaz has returned to the city, Naruto added as he felt her energy in the skull. So what are we gonna do? Kuroka asked him, poking her head over his shoulder. HM. For now we watch, and trust that the devils can control their own territory. If things go wrong then we'll step in, Naruto said, holding back the urge to simply go down and pull Rainer away. He could feel the other fallen angels in the group resting in the abandoned church they had occupied. One however was coming straight towards him. Lord Naruto, Kalwerner said politely as she landed in front of him. Naruto smiled when the loyal fallen angel spoke to him. She had set herself apart from the other members of their small faction, with her dedication to both him and Azazel. It was a quality many lacked, unfortunately. It wasn't uncommon for them to disobey an order and kill humans and other faction members. It's been too long, Kala, Naruto said, hugging her. The woman blushed deeply at his embrace, but returned it nonetheless. Naruto let go of her and gave her some space. I'm sorry for not contacting you for so long, but I was preoccupied, the blonde said, earning a smirk from the tall woman. Oh, I can see that, she said, looking over at Kuroka, who was watching on with interest. I see you bagged yourself a sexy cat girl, my lord. I gotta say I'm a bit jealous, she said, looking at Kuroka's chest for a second, but took satisfaction in the fact that she was still taller than her. Naruto rolled his eyes at her before growing serious. As much as I want to catch up, I need to know exactly what Rainer has been doing with the boy. Azazel told me a bit, but due to my situation, I wasn't able to learn much about him, the blue-eyed teen said to the woman, who nodded and grew serious as well. There was a time for playing, and a time for work. This was one of the things she took to heart after she started to work with the blonde. He's a pervert, Kalwerner said, plainly causing both Naruto and Kuroka to switch-drop at the notion. A pervert with a weapon that could defeat even the gods. It was almost terrifying what could happen if he ever went insane and used his power for ignoble purposes. However, he has a good heart from what I've seen and treasures his family and friends. Originally he joined Kuo Academy, due to the fact that he thought he could obtain a harem, due to the lower male to female ratio. It hasn't worked as far as we can tell. Calwarner told Naruto, who nodded. The boy sounded a bit like a young Jiraiya, only much weaker at the moment. It is because of this that Rainer was able to manipulate him. Due to his lack in ability to gain a girlfriend, Rainer pretended to be a girl who was attracted to him. She added to her information. So basically the boy wants to fuck a girl so badly he was willing to date a girl he never met before and knew nothing about, yet she somehow knew enough about him to fall for him. Naruto said, a bit annoyed. Why was he doomed to forever be surrounded by pervert? If it wasn't for the fact that he was sure he could beat some of the gods, he would have thought a higher power was laying with him. Other than that, the Gremory girl's peerage has been watching over him from the shadows. I suspect that she is wait for Rainer to finish him off so that she can reincarnate him into a devil. Calwarner told him. Naruto narrowed his eyes a bit at the notion of waiting for someone to die, just to make them a servant for you. It was one of the few problems he had with the devil faction, but he understood their reason for doing so due to the wars they had fought. Truth be told, he had a problem with all three factions including his own. Haven't had too many strict rules. The devils had their peerage system which supported a form of slavery if the king wasn't just, and his faction was made of sinners for the most part. So Ryuz is also tangled up in this. Naruto muttered while rubbing his chin, trying to think of a real strategy on how to handle the problem. One thing he would need to do is get approval from the people who were in control of the area. He could just feel the headache coming. Anything else? Naruto asked, not wanting any more surprises. Yes. Calwarner nodded. Rainer has also tricked a former nun from the Catholic Church who was labeled a witch after she healed a devil. She has a powerful healing sacred gear that is able to heal any race. Rainer wants to steal it from her to enhance her power. She told the blonde, who frowned. No doubt that a sacred gear like that would give her a massive advantage, but he couldn't let an innocent girl die. Kuroka, Calwarner, go to the base that Azazel provided for us. I have something that I have to do. Naruto said to the two women, who nodded, showing him that they understood. The blonde's 12 wings sprouted out of his back before he flew towards the school. The Cult Research Club. Steam escaped from the shower in the room of Ryuz, cleaned herself. It was an attempt to relax as she tried to figure out what to do. She had already started planning to get one of the perverted trio into her peerage due to his sacred gear, but she still had some hope that the blonde fallen angel kept his word and dealt with Riser for him. The more she thought about it, the more it seemed like a lie. After all, why would a fallen angel want to get involved in devil politics? After all, that was all her marriage was. Who are you? She heard one of her peerage members yell from the main room. She quickly turned the shower off and wrapped herself in pink towel, leaving her cleavage exposed, but covering up most of her modesty. Running out of the shower, she saw the same blonde that had plagued her mind for the last few days, holding her knight's sword back with a single finger while crouching on the open window. Naruto looked up and noticed Ryuz standing there in a towel, a fact that he tried to ignore. Hey, Ryuz-chan. He said cheerfully with a small wave. Ryuz waved back awkwardly at how he acted so casually while being attacked by a devil. The blonde knight looked back at his king, who signaled him to stop his attack. I got to say, your knight is pretty fast. Naruto commented as he stepped into the room. He had to admit that the place looked pretty nice from the inside. Besides him, there were three others in the room. One was of course Ryuz, who had ran out of the shower. The other was the blonde pretty boy who had attacked him when he appeared. The last was a very short white-haired girl who he instantly recognized as Kuroka's younger sister, due to their similar energy. Naruto-san, what are you doing here? The Busiri asked the blonde, who sat down next to the white-haired girl, who gave him a blank gaze before going back to her treats. Naruto looked down at the girl, who was a bit tense with him near her. He could even see her nose twitching a bit. He didn't doubt that she could smell Kuroka's scent on him. Well, I was sent here by Azazel to take care of Rainer as she overstepped her boundaries, Naruto said to her. The eyes of the two other peerage members who didn't know his affiliation with the Grigori. So it's only right that I ask for permission to move freely within your family's land to prevent any accidental disputes, Naruto stated, getting a nod from the president of the club. Ryuz didn't need to think about it. She knew that if she said yes, then her plan for recruiting Issei would be ruined by the blonde, who would take care of Rainer by the end of the night. I'm sorry, but I have the situation under control, the Reddit responded, earning a small glare from the blonde. Ryuz was a bit scared that he would turn on her for refusing him, but sighed in relief when he backed away. Okay then, but if I see that you're over your head, then I'll step in, Naruto said before looking down at Kaneko, who was staring at him with a cross between a glare and a stoic expression. He had to admit that she looked pretty cute. Can I help you, Neko-chan? Naruto asked, getting a full glare from the girl. You can use senjutsu, she said calmly, but he could hear the traces of hatred in her voice when she said the name of his technique. Naruto frowned on the inside, seeing the bad blood the younger sister had with Kuroka and senjutsu. No doubt she still hated senjutsu for, according to the devils, making her sister inane. Ryuz turned to Naruto looking for answers from him. She knew who Haruka was talking about, and as the sister of the strongest Satan, she felt some right to know. So even when you can't use it, you can sense me? Naruto said, a bit surprised. He knew that Kuroka could, but he attributed it to being because she herself knew senjutsu. Ryuz looked at him with a bit of suspicion. It was commonly thought that senjutsu was exclusive to yokai and select humans. To know that a powerful fallen angel could use it too was a bit unsettling. She only hoped her deal with him didn't fall apart. Yes, I am a senjutsu user. You shouldn't use it, Kaneko said, glaring at the blonde. The memories of her sister were still fresh in her mind. How she had almost lost her life because of it, and how she had ended up not as Shirin, but as Kaneko as a member of Ria's peerage. Naruto laughed a bit as he drew in nature energy, but instead of a feeling of dread, Ria's, Kaneko, and Kiba felt a wave of serenity wash over them. It was as if the world around them was now at peace. Kaneko's eyes widened at the warm feeling. It was like a warm blanket was wrapped around her. Senjutsu is a very powerful ability. It can give you near unimaginable strength once you master it. My brand of senjutsu is far different from anything your sister knows and has many strengths yours lacks. The blonde said before stopped drawing in energy. How do you keep so calm though? Ryuz asked the fallen angel. Senjutsu, according to what I have read, causes you to become drunk in power due to the malice of the world. This is why Kuroka killed her king. The beautiful Redeed said, getting a small smirk from the blonde. Naruto stood up and walked towards the window and looked out at the campus he was currently in. Humans, devils, fallen angels, and even angels. Every single race in this world has left a huge mark on this planet. The constant war and destruction can taint the very energy that nature creates. Naruto said, letting that sink in for the three devils. It was then that he had an idea. Ryuz-chan, I want to have a quick battle with your peerage. Considering how much time I may have to spend in your area, I think it's best if they at least know a bit about me, and to judge how strong you are. Naruto suggested. Ryuz frowned but gave the idea thought. She knew that her entire peerage was so matched against the blonde in front of her. Her brother had gone into great detail, that the fallen angel was more powerful than even himself. Anybody who was stronger than the strongest Satan was something she didn't want to mess with really. But at the same time he could help her train her friends. One thought that crossed her mind was Naruto possibly teaching her or Kaneko how to use senjutsu. I accept on one condition. Ryuz said, getting the attention of her two peers. Naruto just waited for her answer when he saw her mind starting to work. I will accept if you help train my peerage. The blonde thought about it. He was already seeing how Ryuz operated. She got what she wanted, and to an extent, would use underhanded methods to achieve her goals. His mind went to her other deal with him. He had a clear advantage over Riser due to his power over light and his speed. Okay? Naruto said as he stepped back up on the window. Meet me in the forest about 4 miles out of the city. He said before jumping down to the ground and walking away, as if nothing had happened. Rigord base. Ollie was on the ground panting heavily. His entire body was covered in bruises caused by none other than Azazel, who stood in front of him with his arms crossed, and a stern look on his face. This had been Volley's punishment of attacking Naruto, even after he had been ordered not to. Stand up, Volley. You want to fight Naruto, but you can't even beat me. Azazel said, trying to drive it into his adopted son's head that he would lose. Ollie stood up even when his body tried to force him back down. He couldn't help but glare at the governor of the Grigori. I will beat him, he said as he spat out a glob of blood onto the floor. The entire time the two had been sparring, he wasn't allowed to use his sacred gear even once. Oh? Azazel said with a raised eyebrow. And how will you do that? He is stronger than even me physically, and he is faster. He has unlimited stamina and can destroy mountains as he pleases. And before you set the divine dividing, I'll warn you now, Azazel said as his face softened a bit. If you ever use your sacred gear, while Naruto is at full power or his eyes are orange, you will die, the fallen angel said. Ollie's eyes widened at what he had just heard. He had never thought that he could die from using his sacred gear on someone else. If anything, he always believed that it would make him stronger in the end. How? He asked. Naruto can use a special kind of senjutsu, Azazel admitted to Volley, who remained silent. That alone could bring up concerns for him. The hatred and the energy combined with his sacred gear could accidentally cause him to lose control. However, unlike normal senjutsu, if you can't control it properly, he said, getting up close to Volley, you'll be turned into a toad and then to stone. He said, remembering one of the stories Naruto told him about his world. How one of his enemies tried draining his energy, only to be tricked into petrifying himself. What Azazel didn't know, however, was that he had only strengthened Volley's desire to fight against the blonde, to prove that he was the strongest between the two. With Naruto, Kuroka. Naruto yelled out as he entered the house he had been given by Azazel. Naruto sighed when he didn't get a response. He assumed that she had gone out and walked towards his room in the house. He had to admit Azazel had outdone himself with the house. It was more of a mansion than a house. It was styled in an Elizabethan style with dark blue furniture and oak floors. I see you've arrived. Naruto heard a feminine, yet cold and emotionless voice. Naruto turned his head to see a young girl with gray eyes and long black hair that reached her hips. She was wearing a black and purple gothic Latita dress. Your existence interests me. I want you to join my group to help me rid my home of a pest. In return I will grant you whatever you desire. The girl said to the blonde rather bluntly. Please get out of my house. Naruto deadpanned, knowing exactly who this girl was. Azazel had given him a run-through of all the most powerful beings in the world. Going by his description, he recognized her as none other than the Infinite Dragon Office. He had gotten from one of the fallen angels that had deserted them for the so-called Chaos Brigade that she was also the leader of that group. I refuse to leave until you join me. She persisted, causing Naruto to sigh. He should have known that sooner or later he would draw on the attention of the so-called strongest existence. The only thing he feared more would be what would happen when he would have to confront heaven. I am not betraying Azazel, Naruto said firmly as he summoned a spear of light in his right hand. Office narrowed her eyes a bit on Naruto, who had already prepared himself for an incoming attack. He already knew that if he had to fight against this dragon, he couldn't afford to hold back on like he did with Azazel. He could already feel the power she was holding back inside of her small body. It easily rivaled Kaguya in size, but not in potency. You are a brave idiot, Office said, sounding honest. Naruto nearly sweat dropped but couldn't really deny it. Only a handful of beings would openly threaten the dragon god, but at least he knew. I repeat my offer. Join me and I'll give you whatever you desire, she said to the blonde. Take me back home, Naruto said to her. I'll join you if you can prove to me that you can send me back to my world after I help you. That is the only thing that I want, Naruto told the Ouroboros dragon, who looked down for a second. That is beyond my power, Office said with a small frown on her face. While she had an almost inconceivable amount of power and abilities at her disposal, the kind of thing the blonde fallen angel was asking for was something which she couldn't do, or at least didn't know if she could. Naruto laughed a bit at his small victory. Regardless, you will join me on my quest to rid my home of a pest that is disturbing my silence, she pressed. If you can call whatever you need to get rid of a pest, then it must not be that powerful compared to you. I doubt you would need my power to face your pest with all the people you already have, Naruto said with a bite in his tone. The amount of Grigori members he had to track down and often terminate was a bit overwhelming at times. It was one of the chief reasons why their faction was rapidly shrinking now, along with conflict with other factions. They betrayed their group for her in search of the reward she promised them. Office stayed silent for a second before she giving her response. A battle between me and the intruder would last too long, which is why I need a force behind me to ensure his defeat, the dragon god said coldly. Naruto thought about it for a bit, and came to the conclusion that she had a point. It was almost like a Sir and Indra's battle back in his world. Both died in their battle due to how even they were power-wise. Either way, it's not my problem, Naruto said, sounding irritated by the fact that the god refused to leave him alone. I have enough to deal with as it is. I don't need your problems on my shoulders as well, Naruto told her with a glare. Office looked at the door slightly, before locking eyes with Naruto. You interest me. I must attend to other matters for now. I will observe you on a later date, Office said to him, before standing up from her spot and walking out the door. Naruto just watched her leave and sensed her energy vanish. Well, that happened, Naruto said before Kuroka bursted through the door looking very worried, but seemed to calm down when she saw him. What's wrong, Kuroka? Naruto asked, despite the fact that she had calmed down. To see her this frazzled wasn't a common thing for him. It's nothing, she said, dismissing his concern for her. Naruto just nodded, not wanting to get himself into another problem after just stealing the dragon god. Heaven. Gabriel, an angel with long blonde hair and 12 golden wings, yelled out. He had green eyes and a golden halo over his head. I have a task for you. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.